Hello and welcome back to the channel. The fly we have in the vise is a Diawl Bach variant. This fly, the only way it really differs from the original is that it uses a bright red glow bright rib. So I call it the red rib Diawl. You'll see from the pattern as we progress, it is a fairly sparse pattern. It's almost like a wet fly without the wing. I'm using the Kamasan B175 in size 10 to start off with. This is because the fly will be used as an anchor fly, like the point fly maybe of a buzzer leader or something like that. Or you could use it off the dropper if you've got a heavier fly on a bung. I'm just nipping off the thread, which is black UTC 70. You could use any thread, but I find the black UTC unfurls and becomes quite flat when you tie it. So for the tail, I'm going to use some red game cock hackle fibres. I think this might be a genetic cape, so I'll use one of the bigger feathers in there. It doesn't really matter, to be quite honest. I've used just Chinese cock cape fibres or a poor quality hen cape really. The important thing is to try and keep all the fibres together, as this tail really represents a shuck rather than a true tail. So just try and align as many as you can up. You might have to take a few out and lay them back up again. If you're careful, you can get them fairly well aligned by pulling them at right angles to the hackle stem before you pull them away from the stalk. But this case it'll be absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just trapping those in with a few quite tight threads. Don't make it too tight because the fibres will flare out, and really you want to keep this pretty much in a straight line. So as I say, the aim of this fly really is to keep it quite sparse. So for the rib I'm using Glow Bright number 4, which is like quite a scarlet colour but got a touch of orange to it. I'm just using a few wraps to keep this in place. Now I keep my Glow Bright on a bobbin because I find it's much easier to handle. So for the body I'm using peacock herl, around 3 to 4 strands, usually about 3, but I use the thinner strands. I like the extra insurance of having 3 strands rather than, you'll see most people tie this pattern with a single strand, but I'll tie it slightly different, and I'll show you how in a minute, to try and keep the sparseness still there. So to help with the adhesion to the hook shank and a little bit more, to make it a little bit more durable, I add a thin coat of varnish, and then what I do, I wrap the peacock herl around the shank, but I do it quite flat, so each herl will have contact with the varnish, and that in turn, when the varnish dries, will form a solid bond. I'm just whipping over a loose turn to start off with to trap the herl, and then you can either pinch this off with your finger and thumb, or you can cut it off. Sometimes you'll find the herls are quite tough. Sometimes they pull away no problem. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to rib over with the glow bright floss, and what I'll do, I'll spin the bobbin first to tighten up the floss and make it more of a cord, and I'll put 5 or 6 turns around the body of the fly. Now I'm doing it in the same direction. I've tried counter ribbing with this fly and it doesn't seem to make any difference. You'll find that sometimes the Glow Bright starts fraying anyway, so you'll end up having to tie a new fly on, but I can get a good half a dozen, 10 maybe more fish out of one fly generally. So I've just flicked the bobbin around the Glow Bright there just to try and fasten it a little bit more, It can be a little bit slippy glow, right? So any little precaution that you can put in there, I think it does help. So I've inverted the vise now, so I can see where I'm going to put the throat hackle. This is called a beard or a false hackle sometimes. So I've got a similar clump to the tail, and I'm just using a pinch and loop against my finger to just get it in place. And again, you want to keep this fairly flat to the fly. And just a little tip here, when you rotate it, if it doesn't look right, unwrap it and redo it again like I've done here. I've had that many flies when I was younger, when I first started tying flies, that never made it out onto the water because I wasn't happy with them. So I'm just nipping those hackle fibres off now. And as you can see, that beard hackle or throat hackle is really quite tight to the body. By keeping everything fairly parallel, you do keep it nice and flat. So I'm going to tidy up the head with a couple of whip finishes here. I always put 2 on for my clients, as I've said before, so this is part of a batch that's going to somebody. I'm coming up to the end of this pattern actually. There's not a great deal to it, you know. I mean, you can probably tie one of these in 3 or 4 minutes or less once you get going. So I'm just applying the extra one. So if you've enjoyed today's fly, I'll be doing a few more still water flies, and then I'm going to switch over to river flies that I use. If you do enjoy them though, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and if you hit the notifications, you'll get to see my videos when they first come out. I aim to do 1 a week for the next few months, and depending on the feedback I get, I might continue a bit longer with the Stillwater series, or I might go for the river series. So please let me know what you'd like in the comments below. I'm just going to finish off this fly with a dot of varnish, and that'll be it. And that's it for now. Thanks. Goodbye.